Recently, I read Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, and I also read Uprooted by the same author. And personally, I think one of those is way better as a book and a story than the other, and I wanted to talk about why. First of all, Spinning Silver, I think, is the one that I think is better. In my opinion, Spinning Silver is leagues above Uprooted. And Spinning Silver is more skillfully written. It has multiple POVs that are very distinct. Each character has their own voice. And additionally, the world in Spinning Silver is more realized. Personally, Spinning Silver has a much more tightly drawn plot. There's nothing out of place in Spinning Silver, and the writing itself is very atmospheric and descriptive. It's really good. With Uprooted, it also has very atmospheric and descriptive writing, but I think it's less well written. I found the plot lacking personally. It is not as tightly written, and the conclusion is not the best, in my opinion. Additionally, Agnieszka, the main character of Uprooted, was a much more frustrating character to read about than any of the POV characters in Spinning Silver. She's a lot more passive and stubbornly unwilling to do things and engage with the stuff around her despite her circumstances. She's just, and I'm not saying that she's a bad character. She's not the best character in my. There are aspects to her I really admire and like. However, compared to the characters in Spinning Silver, she's lacking. Also, personally for me, in Uprooted, I don't think the romance was that well done. Romance isn't my thing, and I actually kind of enjoyed the romances in Spinning Silver, especially compared to Uprooted. I just thought that they made a lot more sense and they were more well developed. In Uprooted, it just sort of was like, this might as well happen, so it'll happen. And another criticism I have of Uprooted is that I wish there was more about the forest itself. The evil, corrupted forest was the main draw for me for Uprooted. I don't think it was done justice. I wish there was more information about it, and I thought that it needed to be more explored, that aspect of the story, compared to other things. And my main criticism, I think, of Uprooted is Agnieszka's magic. Agnieszka's magic is very intuitive, instinctual. It's imprecise. It's haphazard and thrown together compared to Sarkhan's, the dragons, which is very procedural and scientific. It's much more precise. There's rules that you have to abide by, and it's, like I said, much more scientific. And as far as I can tell, because the magic system is not well explored at all, only Agnieszka's magic is like that. And the only other female magician dies. So she's the only real example we have of magic done by a female magician. And the criticism I have is much more eloquently summed up by Ursula K. Le Guin in this quote. But I didn't and still don't like making a cult of women's knowledge, printing ourselves on knowing things men don't, women's deep irrational wisdom, women's instinctive knowledge of nature, and so on. All that all too often merely reinforces the masculinist idea of women as primitive and inferior, women's knowledge as elementary, primitive, always down below at the dark roots, while men get to cultivate and own the flowers and crops that come up into the light. But why should women keep talking baby talk while men get to grow up? Why should women feel blindly while men get to think? And that pretty much just sums up my main criticism of Uprooted. Agnieszka is the only example of a female magician that really matters in this book. There are some side characters, but, you know, like I said, she dies. And her magic is so vibes based, quite honestly, versus Sarkhan's. And yeah, it made me enjoy the book less. And the thing is, Uprooted is still good. It's just not as good as Spinning Silver, and those are the criticisms I have as to why. I would actually recommend both if you like fantasy and fairy tale retellings and all of that. But in my opinion, Spinning Silver is much better and honestly much more worth your time.